could accept the fact that the city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion. Biblical. What it means is Old Testament. Yeah, Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff. Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling. 40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes. Sea rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
On June 4th, 1947, researchers at the Alamogordo Army Airfield in New Mexico launched a long train of balloons from the top secret Project Mogul. Balloons carrying devices to listen for Soviet atomic tests. However, several days later, a rancher just outside of Roswell, New Mexico, found the debris, and all of a sudden then started the craze of what would become to known as the Roswell incident. Now, of course, I know all about that because why? Well, listen, I was there. I mean, I don't say reporting since Roswell, just for S&Gs, if you know what I'm saying. So, but that was then, and then this is now. Years later, we have all kinds of things that are happening in the world of space and space aviation. However, there is a line of thinking and also study and belief that all of this is nothing more than a ruse. And that ruse has been happening for quite some time. The founding of NASA and other different alphabet agencies. And far be it from me to try to sit there and make sense of all of that, when I do know that there are people out there who spend many of nights and hundreds, maybe thousands of hours going over all of this information. And it's very interesting because I have on the phone with us someone who hasn't been on the show in quite a while. He is what I call my B-fam, my brother from another mother, Nate Allen, also known, you can find him online, TNT Nate. Nate, it is great to have you back on the show.
Hello, sir. Hello, Sam.
Hey, I am doing great. Listen, it's wonderful to hear your voice. And listen, when I sat there, we're coming up to the end of the season this year with shows. And I said, well, listen, if there's one show that I do need to have, and it is this idea that there is space or there may not be space. Whatever they're telling us space is might not be the case. And then there's this idea of the realm. And so I figured that, hey, if there's somebody who I know that has done massive amounts of research into all of this, it is you. So let's just kick this off. They say that from what I understand, the founders of Scientology, as strange as this might sound, the founders of Scientology have some sort of connection to the founding of NASA. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so NASA. You guys are talking about NASA. I have a show of my own, the Fan Podcast, and I say this on almost a nightly basis. We don't know everything, but we notice everything. And with NASA, man, Sam, my brother from another mother, my mother from another mother, we noticed a lot. Not just me. I mean, tons of people. For instance, NASA, if you're going to start with NASA, right? The word in Hebrew, contextually in the Old Testament, means to deceive.
To deceive?
To deceive. It's to beguile, to deceive. It's not a word that we have that we can use in our language, so you have to go by context. It means to lift up physically, but in context in the Old Testament, interestingly enough, it means to deceive. Now, we think of NASA as National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Or, if you're like me, not a space agency. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a ton of deception there. So when you start thinking about space, And you got to go back to the official story. And almost just like everything else that's come out in the past 10 to 15 years, you have to be ready to relearn what you thought you knew. You got to be able to ask some questions. And you mentioned the founder of Scientology. What a group that is. What a money-taking, but very powerful group that has become. The founder you're thinking of is L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard does have a little to do with NASA. We can get into it once we get into the deception. What I wanted to do on your show today, if I was going to come talk about NASA, is I wanted to break NASA down a little bit and talk about everything that the public has seen that they've had questions about. Everything from the weird phone call from the moon, or the bubble when they're watching the videos, the strings that are holding up the astronauts, all the questions that people may have. I tend to know a little bit of. I tend to know the conspiracy theory, if you will, the conspiratorial answers to those questions. Kind of my specialty. So if you want to go down that road, we can do that.
Well, listen, I do have a question. Now, I think I remember reading years ago that NASA was doing a lot of work in the ocean, and they were doing ocean research information and things. And then out of nowhere, all of a sudden that they stopped doing that and they turned their attention to space. Can you speak on that?
Okay. So that goes into one of the deceptions that people notice. They have what's called the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory. It's located at the Sonny Carter Training Facility in Houston, Texas. So Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
So officially, it is just a training tool, right? But it's also set up just like a set. It's a 6.2 million gallon pool, 40 foot deep, and a lot of people say it's where the quote unquote spacewalks you see on the ISS are simulated. And like I said, that pool just so happens to have everything needed under like the ISS, like what you see when you see the astronauts with their hair out there, all of that underwater. And they say it's just a training tool. But people like me are like, that's too much of a coincidence. Yeah, they have all your waterproof cameras under there, everything ready to roll. Not the space agency has been deceiving the public, in my humble opinion, for a very long time. And that's just one of the ways they used to do it, that Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory.
Now, also, a lot of people sit there and they say, and I'm sure that you know about this whole idea and concept of the moon. I just think I saw recently where I guess Elon Musk and SpaceX had a probe that sat there and flew into it. There was videos all over online about it, and social media and all that jazz. And they said, "Oh, look, it poof, it left a little crater up in the moon." Now, then people sit there and they tell me, and what is on the internet, I guess, in these conspiracy circles, is the whole idea that Stanley Kubrick directed or had some kind of connection to the actual space footage, the one with Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, one small step for man, another step for mankind. And there's a lot of questions, of course, about, flags and shadows. And then, well, who was holding the camera as the module went back up into the air? What's going on with the moon?
Well, so the moon has been another almost target for conspiracy theorists, if you want to call them that. Guy back in the 60s came out and was certain. He was certain that people would find out sooner or later that the moon is more plasma than it is solid. Well, you can't land on anything plasma, and so that scientist went on national television. I forget the guy's name, but you could go look up the video, and he was certain. All of a sudden, you hear nothing of the sort. We land men, supposedly land men on the moon. The moon is a subject of massive attention because of the importance that it has when it had it. We had to, they created this, I guess, this Cold War. I still think it's a fake Cold War, but they created a Cold War with the Soviet Union. It was a competition, it was a space race, who was going to be numero uno, and they had to use the moon to do that. You know, JFK, he kind of put them in that position, talking about way before it was going to happen, that we should probably land men on the moon. And that led to what you saw, or what everybody thinks that they saw, and another deception noticed by a ton of people from NASA itself. So the moon is not, most people don't ever question the moon. And I'll sit here and tell you that a lot of people in those conspiracy circles do, including myself.
All right, so we have this idea that so we have this deception for the moon, we have deception of spacewalks and underwater facilities out in Houston. Houston, we have a problem. I like that. But we have, of course, other things that are going on. Now, NASA has sent probes out, and there's pictures. There's pictures of the world and of these planets. Yeah.
But those pictures, they have all been. If you take something simple as Photoshop and you look at the pictures NASA has provided of Earth from space, supposedly, those pictures have been altered, edited. That's why when I just saw the little video of something crashing into the moon, now that we have AI, super simple to make. But back then, they had to use still photos, and they provided them all online as definitive proof. Well, it turns out that when people started putting those pictures into software, they could see where they were edited. And a lot of times, not just merely edited, but certain patterns were copied and pasted that were almost redundant. And people started noticing this in the images. And so they questioned, why can't we just get a real, legitimate photo? Never happened.
And now, okay, so when we see pictures of Saturn and Jupiter, you're telling me that these are just manipulated images and not actual images that have been sent back from these so-called space probes, or what?
It seems like that to me, and to a lot of people that think it's likely, because of exactly what I said. Because the images you can prove that they've been doctored. So when people ask the question, NASA never provides a concrete answer that's worth it. Well, let me not curse on the air. They can't provide a concrete answer that makes sense. Just like the technology. So the 60s didn't have the technology of a TI-82 calculator. Okay, they supposedly didn't have the technology, quote unquote, to go back to the moon, and that's when a lot of people were like, wait a second, where'd you get the technology from in the first place? How did you destroy it? They said that they destroyed it. They are trying, it seems to me and a lot of other people, that they are trying to lie time and time again. You know, you always get caught in the cover up after the initial lie. When things start not to make sense, you start to notice the deception, and that's where you'll find it. And NASA is one of the biggest test cases for anybody who's ever studied any type of conspiracy theory, because the evidence for the lies or the deception, they're so numerous. I literally made a list. It all starts with a guy named Jack Parsons, and it happens all the way up to modern day. So however you want to go down that road, Sam, however far down the rabbit hole you want to go, you can go there, my friend.
Well, listen, you mentioned Jack Parsons, and we talked about L. Ron Hubbard. We talked about the moon. We've talked about these underwater facilities that look just like the International Space Station. We're talking about Photoshop. Now, Now, this is very interesting because I've had people tell me, they said, Sam, listen, Sam, if space was fake and if the moon is fake and all of that stuff, then it would be like there would be too many people. There's too many people working for NASA. There's too many people working, of course, for other space agencies around the world, around the globe, that sit there and say, "Hey, well, listen, everybody would have to be in on it," and so they could not sit there and deceive people. And if that's the case, that all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, like, so is the lie too big? But you're talking about the hand in the proverbial cookie jar. Every time they get found out, there's something else that comes about, and some new information comes up. People still notice things, as you were saying, but this whole idea that now there are things such as radio waves, light, and everything, and there are groups of people within NASA, these space agencies and organizations, that are looking at computer screens and seeing radio frequencies, radio waves, and light waves. And so what is all of that? Is it just like a really poor video game that they're all playing? And how could a lie such as space be covered up if it's such a big lie?
That argument never holds water with me. Just look at what was found out after, let's say, like when NASA first started, right? The beginning of NASA. I would like to go into Jack Parsons because he was around prior to NASA. They stole his research to create NASA, and I'll tell you where he got his stuff from. But you got to talk about a guy by the name of Werner von Braun. People started looking into Werner von Braun later on in his career, pretty much the father of NASA. He was basically a Nazi war criminal, and he came over here under then the Project Paperclip for 1,600 German scientists, and people know this now, but back then it was concealed. It was not known publicly, and for a lot of intended purposes, the military tried to distance themselves from Project Paperclip until it was declassified. So to state that, listen, an entire military-industrial complex knew about so many classified projects that become declassified later on, and nobody during the time in which they knew about it has a clue. And it's because it's very serious, and the repercussions for talking about such could be very serious to you or your loved ones. These NDAs that these people sign, they take them a lot of times to the grave. And so that argument that everybody would know, somebody would say something, listen, we've all seen what the United States can do to a whistleblower, have we not?
Right.
So a lot of people don't like to go down that road, right? Very understandably. And so secrets can be kept. There's military installations that weren't known about until recently, underground, like Raven Rock and such. There's places that have been hidden and had hundreds, if not thousands of people working there, and nobody knew when nobody was the wise. So secrets in this country, with this military especially, can be kept in mass, from the mass. I thoroughly believe that.
We're speaking with TNT Nate, the host of the BFAM podcast. You can follow him on social media, TNT Nate, at TNT Nate, the BFAM podcast on Rumble. Now, Nate, listen, another thing that's very interesting. I know we're hopping all over the place and we don't have too much time, but I do want to keep going down this road. And somebody mentioned in the chat something about flat Earth. Now, I see this all over the place where, the Earth is flat. And of course, everybody's like, the Earth is flat, it's flat. And of course, we have, many people that were on record saying that the Earth is a globe. But then there's this prevalent view of a flat Earth, or what I would like to sit there and call realm theory. What is this idea of realm theory? Where does this come from? And I mean, we all know that the Earth is round, right?
I mean, listen, I don't know many people who have been up there, especially without a curved lens. I would say that no, we don't know. We're shown a model, and we're told what it is. But the father of NASA himself, Werner von Braun, the father of space, I think is what they called him, the guy who taught everybody about space, said to reach for the stars, everything like that, right? Great propaganda bit, but on his tombstone, he had etched Psalms 19:1. Now, for the guy who spent the majority of his career as a rocket man, a scientist, someone going on Walt Disney's programming, I think it was called Tomorrowland, he'd have little episodes teaching children about space. The guy put Psalms 19:1 on his tombstone, and that reads, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." So the realm theory goes back to the idea that there is a firmament or something blocking, well, one, blocking anyone from getting out. They say this, as many politicians say, and scientists say, that this is a closed system, quote unquote. And at first, it was the Van Allen radiation belts that people thought. Then you got Hillary Clinton saying there's a glass ceiling. There's a lot of things that people notice, and that is where the theory comes from. But it really stems from the fact that in the Bible, it states that there is a firmament separating the waters from the water. And people have always been looking for that firmament, and look no further than, like I said, Psalms 19:1, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork." The dome itself. That's what the idea stems from.
Well, once again, we're speaking to TNT Nate, talking about space realm theory and everything in between. Now, when you sit there and we go about this idea of realm theory, and the reason why I bring up the shape of the Earth, people use, I think it is a Foucault's pendulum. Are you familiar with Foucault's pendulum? And that is the pendulum that you see in a lot of museums, and it's the one that actually, they say, experts, if you will, space experts, that is why it goes back and forth. I also saw a video not too long ago where I guess the sun did not set in Antarctica, and of course that was because the Earth is tilted a certain type of way. And so there are many people that sit there and says, well, hey, we have proven this with these different types of science projects, people shooting lasers and things or something to that effect. But you're saying that all of that is possibly wrong and manipulated in some kind of way?
I'm just saying to question it. I'd like to see that thing stopped, that Falkirk. I'd like to see it stopped and for them to remove the magnet. I'm just saying there has also been tons of different tests where people have noticed, like, hey, I am at a certain distance away from an object, and I still have a straight line of sight, and I can measure the straight line of sight. They've done tests in Florida, for instance. There's many things you can go up. There's two different sides of this argument, and you could go online and people argue all day. I'm just saying, question the narrative, because the people telling you the story have been known to lie, and to lie a lot.
Well, it goes back to what I always ask everybody. I said, would your government ever lie to you? And I don't think I've ever had anybody say no. So if they're willing to lie to you.
You mentioned Jack Parsons, right? Most people don't know who that is. And This was the guy that he was like a rocket savant, but he was uneducated. And this is where NASA or the Army, you see, the Army fired him. They basically funded him, got his research, took his research, let him go, and then he kept on doing his experiments. He was about to take his experiments abroad, and then lo and behold, his laboratory explodes. He dies in the explosion. But this guy, he created physical jet fuel. He did things that modern science said was impossible to do, and he did not have formal education or training in these fields. Let me read to you a quote from Jack Parsons, and this is where NASA literally originated from. This guy says this: "I have received communications from the old ones, entities that have existed on this planet since before the dawn of human civilization. They have given me knowledge that will allow humanity to reach the stars." This guy was into Aleister Crowley summoning rituals, Babylon working rituals, all of these anti-Christic entities that he claimed to be in contact with. He said they gave him the information. This research is what created the technology, also taken from Werner von Braun's rocket technology that he was using in Germany from B-2 ballistic missiles. They combined those two sets of technological breakthroughs, Jack Parsons and Werner von Braun, and they created what we know of today as NASA. It was all based off of, I guess, summoning or seances. And so to think that people know everything, to think that science or this physical world, the story that they've told you is everything. Well, when you really look into it, dig a little deeper, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Gotcha. Okay, listen. So I do have some people in the chat, people asking questions. They're basically saying, wondering, just this idea of the belief that the Earth is, they can't believe that the Earth is round and that we've been to the moon. Then that means that the evidence is always a fairy tale and that is all just a satanic lie, or something to that effect. People in the chat also.
Yeah, it goes back to the idea that we're minuscule, not important. It's the anti-Bible, anti-Christic teaching, so to speak. This is the reason for deception in the first place. If we are just tiny, then it takes the true meaning of existence away from a lot of folks. It makes them feel insignificant, and that was the basis of the deception. And with that deception, look what they were able to do. They were able to create tensions between nations. They were able to create NASA, which takes billions of dollars of taxpayer money and promises all of this progress, yet can't deliver a similar mission since they went to the moon supposedly went to the moon the first time. It is a money funneling business like I've never seen. And it's all taken from the taxpayer. From their deception to budget operations, usually given to the same person who gave us NASA, which was Dwight D. Eisenhower. Before he gave a famed speech warning the American public of a military-industrial complex and how powerful that they were becoming. Well, it turns out that the money from NASA, which he helped sign into law, just so happens to be funding that same military-industrial complex. We all say.
Wow. Listen, there's so much more that I'm sure that we just brushed the tip of the proverbial ice wall, if you will. We've just, right. So we just brushed the tip of the ice wall, if you will. But listen, I just want to thank you because this is something that people can go online. Now, is there certain places that they can go and people they can research? Because a lot of times people are now worried about AI disruption, and well, where can we go to get legitimate information? These early teachings of Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard?
If you want to find the alternative versions of this so-called history, listen, I could go through sources, but a lot of people don't have time to listen to all the names of the sources or the books, and I get that. So let me just, the easiest search engine for you to use to go look up alternative history is a search engine by the name of Yandex. The Goobs and a lot of others based in America, they'll give you the whitewash, they'll give you the mainstream, but you can still use Yandex and go search out this alternative history, these so-called conspiracies. And a lot of the times, you type in any of this stuff into whatever social media stoop you lean on, Instagram or TikTok or what have you, and you will find people that will provide you the resources there. So you could go look all of this stuff up. I will say that ever since they started scrubbing archive.org, a lot of things seem to be disappearing, a lot of websites seem to be disappearing, but that is to be expected in this day and age. You can still go find the information by using Yandex, plain and simple, piece of cake.
Well, listen, I tell you what, it seems like a rabbit hole that almost may not even end. So, but before we let you go, I do want to sit there and thank you for being a part of the show. Nate, where can everybody find you online? You said you do have your own show where you guys are noticing everything. You don't know everything, but you're noticing everything.
I just like to present it in a way. I have a commentary-based show on Rumble, usually a few times a week. And that they can find me. It's the BFAM podcast. I made it for my brothers from another mother, and we get on there and we cut up. We have a good time. I go over the news, the alternative histories, the conspiracies, everything that I'm interested in. They're interested in stuff like that, and they don't mind getting offended because I'll offend with a smile.
Every time. Every time. Well, and you're also on social media as well. Where can they find you on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, TNT Nate.
TNT Nate. All right. Well, listen, Nate Allen from the BFAM podcast, TNT Nate at TNT Nate on Instagram. Want to thank you for your time today, sir. Like I said, I know we just brushed the tip of the ice wall, if you will, but it gives people a little bit to think about. Because once again, deception is all around. This is the age of deception. I say that all the time, but I do thank you for being a part of the show today, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, Sam. And I'll catch you on the flip side, buddy.
All right. That's TNT Nate from the BFAM podcast. Now, of course, people, you know what I didn't ask him? I didn't ask him about little green men. I didn't ask him about little green men. Is it little green men or is it little gray men? Well, because I don't believe in either of them. Well, because I was there at Roswell. I was at Roswell at the very beginning. I told you at the before we started that it was all part of Project Mogul. These were weather balloon listening devices for a Soviet atomic test. So when I sit there and I start hearing people, now it's interesting. People might sit there and say, "Oh, well, hey, this all sounds kind of crazy. This is well, what is going on? Alternative history." Well, I can at least give Nate a tip of the cap for this. He wasn't talking about some galactic federation. He wasn't talking about reptilians and grays and whatever whatever it is. It is being, I sit there and what is it? Remote viewing and all that stuff. So, I at least sit there because I will see that from time to time online. People talking about there's this galactic federation and this council and, there's these people who have been, taken to Mars and Mars facilities and moon base and the moon is hollow. And so none of that was mentioned. But I'm probably sure that he could probably go down those rabbit trails as well. Deadman 1, shout out to Deadman over here in the chat. Has been saying a lot of fun stuff. We are all Toy Mercs, by the way. Just a little plug here. We are all Toy Mercs. You're a Toy Merc. I'm a Toy Merc. If you like action figures and toys, follow Toy Mercs. Action Figure Toy Photography. Shout out to them for action figure toy photography and what is going on all there. Also another one. Use the code SKYDRO. That's SKYDRO at extremesets.com to get 15% off of any type of the Extreme Sets. And that's if you like set up your action figures and your toys and everything like that. So, but yeah, and also there's also a magazine. Do you ever know that there's a magazine for toy photography? Legion's magazine. Sit there, you can pick up that too as well. Toy photography is huge. Toy photography is huge. And the reason why I bring up toy photography right now, you know that one of my photos has been featured today on the Savage Crucible website. Yes, it's my Komodo photo. You like that, poet, and you know it? My Komodo photo is featured today on Savage Crucible's website. Savage Crucible Saturdays is what they do. You can sit there, use that hashtag, and if you have any Savage Crucible action figure photography, they will highlight that as well. But tip of the cap, of course, to the people over there at Savage Crucible. Nikki Nicole, she is wonderful. Sent her those photographs from the other day, the Komodo photo, and but that is featured on their pages, Facebook page and Instagram page and all that. Once again, you can find me online at Sam Newsman all over social media. That's where you're going to find me, at Sam Newsman all over social media is where you're going to find me. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I see your comments down there. I really do appreciate it. I can't get to all of them, but I do appreciate all of you listening in, being a part of the show, chiming in during the show. And, of course, we'll be back next week. Next week is our very last episode of this season, season 8. We've been doing this for 8. Can you believe that? 8 years. 8 years we've been doing this. But 8 years is how long we've been doing this show. We're going to be taking a break. We won't be doing shows during the semester. Now, the baby spiders are all coming back next weekend. And doing radio shows here on campus has become quite popular. I mean, of course, look over my shoulder. You see that? The Best of Richmond, the best local morning radio show here in Richmond, voted by you guys and the readers of the Richmond Times-Dispatch last year. So we will be getting information about where we placed. We were in the afternoon category and the morning category this year. Made the top 5 for each of those. We'll find out September 16th whether we made the top 3. And but next year I'm calling it right now. We're doing the Sam Sweep. Hashtag Sam Sweep next year is where it's going to be, and it's going to be awesome because we are going to once again set the standard, raise the bar. Well, we set the standard and raise the bar already. I mean, we set the standard, raise the bar by looking over my shoulder and seeing that amazing plaque. We set the standard and raise the bar this year by being in both categories. And next year, we're going to have to set the standard and raise the bar with the hashtag Sam Sweep. And so once again, follow me on social media at Sam Newsman all over social media. Are you listening to the radio feed? Because there's a whole hour before this show, and that's the radio feed. And that radio feed it's radio only. So we play a bunch of cartoon themes and show themes and all of that. So what I want you to do, make sure you download the Live 365 app, search WDCE. You'll be able to listen to that. Also, Citizen Germ coming up here in just a few moments is an ending show segment, little Mr. Rogers segment, if you will. You can only hear that on the radio, WDCE.org, WDCE.net. Download the Live 365 app and search WDCE. Setting the standard and raising the bar. The only way a real award-winning media puppet knows how to do. From the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman, and this is WDCE 90.1 FM, University of Richmond Radio.